This skin model is one of the best models for skin in the lab. It has the green base, and it also has every single structure you need to know on the skin. It's got all the organs, the glands, the receptors. You can clearly see the layers of the epidermis. But before we get to that, let me just kind of break down how this model is made and designed. If you look closely, something that was invisible before, you can now see that there's a line right here. And then right there, there's an arrow on the base that's called A. And then from this line to this line over here that you can now see, that line is going to be B. And the one over here is going to be C. A is the hairy scalp, B is skin of the armpit, and C is the hairless skin of the sole of the foot. So this model actually shows you 3 different types of skin within the human body. If you remember back, you have a certain type of gland that's only found in the armpit. You have special things that are only going to be found in thick skin, which the sole of the foot is, and that will be absent in all the other thin skin types. So let's look at those differences right now. And first, that difference is going to be found in your epidermis. The epidermis is that dark purple layer and up. Anything below that, but above the fat line, that's going to be the dermis, and down here would be the hypodermis. So the epidermis starts with the stratum basale, or basement. So basale and basement both starts with B, so that's the bottommost layer. Above that single layer of cells is going to be a light purple one called the stratum spinosum. And above the stratum spinosum is a darker purple one called the stratum granulosum. And on some models, and even on this one, if you look really, really closely and blow the picture up that I have online, you can see that the stratum granulosum just has granules in it. And now you see that over here on the sole of the foot, there's a white layer on top of it. That white layer is called the stratum lucidum. The stratum lucidum is only found in thick skin, so once I cross over to the armpit, no white layer, and above that, stratum granulosum in thin skin is the stratum corneum. The layer above the stratum lucidum in thick skin, that's your stratum corneum in thick skin. And then everything else kind of is the same. You have the hair with the bulb, the root, and the shaft sticking up top. You have the sebaceous gland that surrounds the hair, and you can see on this one it clearly surrounds the entire hair follicle. That's why when you have the secretion from the sebaceous gland, it secretes sebum. Sebum goes directly to the hair. That's why you have lanolin in sheep, because that sebum is going to be right on the hair itself. You also have these little white flask-like glands. Those are all going directly to the surface of the skin, so all of those are going to be meiocrine glands. The reason why I brought up scalp, armpit, foot, you have this one in this model only. This gland right there is called your apocrine gland, and it's found in bearded areas of mature males, areolar regions and armpit regions. That's going to be your apocrine gland. You have a muscle. This muscle is going to be the piloerector muscle, or the erector pili muscle, and this is what contracts and makes the hair stand up. You also have a gland down there that's just going to be a bunch of concentric circles. That's the pressure receptor. If you don't want to remember pressure receptor, you can call it a lamellar corpuscle or a Pacinian corpuscle, but lamellar because they're laminated structures on top of another. And when pressure comes down, the pressure will push this tissue down, and those laminated structures will start to touch each other. The more of the structures that touch each other, the more pressure that gland can actually feel and then send it off to the brain. Up here, we didn't talk about these yet, those little glands are called touch receptors. They're also called tactile corpuscles. And they're most likely going to be found in these little ridges called your dermal papilla. And the dermal papilla, you can see, brings us back to the stratum basale, which is just the first layer of the epidermis, and they are riding right on top of your dermal papilla. And those are all the structures you can find on all the models in the lab. But this one is most detailed and probably going to be the one you'll see the most of.